Coming up on Now See This. A sleepy neighborhood is in ruins.
There was a lot of blood.
When the buck stops here. A cameraman looking for a story becomes part of breaking news.
I just knew I had to put the camera down and go to their rescue.
And a symbol of national pride becomes a day of national mourning. Cool crooks, icy waters, cold-blooded attacks.
I knew I was in trouble because I saw the knife in his hand.
Think you've seen it all? Now see this.
This is unbelievable.
The man driving this stolen SUV is hopped up on PCP and wreaking havoc on the highways of Miami.
They've got the helicopter on him. Ugh. Oh boy. Unfortunately now this is gonna get hairy now because now we've got traffic to deal with.
He bolts around a motorhome like it's sitting still, playing chicken with oncoming traffic.
There is a car coming now. Hopefully he'll get out of the way.
But car theft and wild driving aren't the worst things he's done today.
Man, oh man.
The chase began when police received a frightening 911 call from a good Samaritan who stopped to help a man who was running bloody in the streets.
I got an emergency. There's a guy got hit with a hammer. He's bleeding like crazy here. He's bleeding all over my car. He's about to pass out.
The victim is Paul Leverett, the driver's loyal buddy who was putting him up while he kicked drugs. Paul remembers it like it was yesterday.
Out of nowhere, he just starts hitting me with the hammer. And he slashed me in the right wrist with a knife. I did think that he was going to try to kill me. I ran out to the street and someone had yelled that he's coming out of the house. And I turned around and he was getting in my car and was taking off.
Cops need to stop him now.
Ugh.
They know they're dealing with an unstable and violent man. If he's willing to hurt a friend, who knows what he'll do to a stranger who tries to get in his way. Police try boxing him in, but this suspect isn't going down without a fight. He rams the railing, throws it in reverse, and snakes his way out of there, barely escaping the tightening net of police. Officers know they missed their golden opportunity.
Unfortunately now we've got traffic lights and crossing traffic and pedestrians also walking around. It's unknown, totally.
The madman behind the wheel no longer resembles the guy Paul Leverett once knew.
I just don't understand. He was someone that everybody liked to be around because he was so positive and so happy.
News chopper cameras broadcast the wild chase live on TV, and viewers respond violently. Residents rush into the street and begin hurling objects at the renegade driver.
Hello.
It's a direct hit. A cement block blasts through the driver's side window, hitting the suspect on the side of the head.
Hello.
The tables have turned. Now he's the one who's bleeding and feeling terrorized. With cops on his tail and in his drug-induced haze, he does the most ironic thing possible. He calls 911.
No, they're not going to hurt you. Can you please stop the car? They're not going to hurt you.
They're gonna hurt me.
But you're not doing any better by running away.
Oh, they're gonna hurt me.
No, they're not. You're going to hurt other people by doing what you're doing.
They're gonna hurt me.
Hello?
The suspect is clearly losing his grip, a dangerous thing to do at 100 miles an hour.
Stay on the phone with me. Hello? Hello?
The suspect abruptly ends the call and continues his rampage. But cops are closing in quick.
He's losing it now.
He panics and crosses into oncoming traffic. The jerky maneuver blows a tire. If this chase doesn't end soon, it's gonna end badly.
He is not going to be able to control that car soon. He's going to be on total rims, and even those rims will wear out.
Police take advantage of the situation and creep up on the suspect. But the guy isn't done doing the unpredictable. He dives from the moving car. It's the latest in a string of bad decisions. Look again as the SUV rolls to a stop. It runs over the suspect's left leg.
I don't think he's able to stand on that leg that he ran himself over with. He's very much in pain.
Cops cuff the suspect quickly. Once he's secure, they'll take him to the hospital. He's facing charges of auto theft, assault, and felony evading. The jury is out on his innocence or guilt, but no sentence can repair the emotional damage and betrayal he inflicted on a friend.
I had spent time with him, tried to help him, and this is what he does to me in return. Were drugs that much more important?
For this man, they were. As the sun rises over this Idaho apartment complex, the day reveals the act of a vandal. A broken window, but what lies on the other side? An on-site manager, Rick Maker, is called to the scene, and he can't believe his eyes.
There was a lot of blood. He was walking around in the living room as calm as could be.
Rick calls police, but his 20 years of experience tells him the bloody ordeal is far from over.
I ran to my apartment and grabbed my camera and figured I better get to some film.
Camera in hand, he returns and cautiously enters, catching the intruder in the act. The unlikely suspect is a deer. The rampaging deer dashes outside only to be spooked by all the bystanders. Moments later, the young buck makes another run for it. Right through another window, where the residents are not happy with this random intruder.
We need to get animal control out here.
I turned the corner and I actually saw some blood stains on the carpet, and when I came farther around the corner, I actually saw that there was the deer standing in my living room. He had his front hooves up on my coffee table that I had in here at the time.
But Shannon is not ready to rumble with this bad boy buck.
My first thought was, you've got to be kidding me. And my second thought was, I really don't want to be in the same room with this deer that ventured into my living room.
He retreats upstairs as the deer decides to make another escape, right at our cameraman.
When I was looking through the viewfinder, I noticed he was coming at me. So I basically dropped my camera and lost control of it and got out of the way. And when I jumped out of the way, he jumped into this window here.
One resident even decides to take up arms against the delinquent deer.
He was standing in front of his two windows with a wiffle ball bat, trying to defend his apartment from the deer.
But the vandalizing venison wants none of this. Despite his loss of blood, the deer has plenty of energy to return to the wild, where it's safe. The ordeal is over, but one resident hasn't forgotten or forgiven the deer.
I did kind of feel sorry for the deer, but then after I saw the damage, I was like, I'd like to have the deer back because it trashed my apartment. I'd like to cook it.
Even though the odds are small that such a strange encounter could ever happen again, two of the unlucky residents moved out. After all, some neighbors are bad, and others are just a little too wild. An unconscious woman is pinned behind the wheel inside this sinking car. And the only thing standing between her and an icy, murky death is a handful of strangers. Moments ago, a traffic accident at this snow-slicked intersection sent 21-year-old Stephanie Long sliding into the pond.
The accident itself looked like one out of a movie.
Fellow commuter David Wilkes called 911 immediately, but when he realized rescue crews would never get there in time, he and 8 other bystanders plunged into the frigid pond to literally hold the car above water.
You don't necessarily think about what you're doing as much as what you're trying to accomplish or a task at hand, and what to do to get her out.
The clock is ticking, but not just for the unconscious victim. The water is on the verge of freezing, and hypothermia will start to grip the rescuers in a matter of minutes.
As I first got in the water, it literally took your breath away.
It'll do worse than that. Inside the car, Stephanie's body temperature is plummeting. Her breathing is slowing and her heart rate falls with each passing second. David Wilkes desperately tries to pull her out of the car, but with the frigid water numbing his fingers, he can't get her free. Something has to be done. The car is settling slowly into the pond's muddy bed. As it does, the water is creeping up over Stephanie's nose and mouth.
I vividly remember her gurgling water. Of course, she's unconscious, out cold the whole time.
At the front of the car, one brave woman reaches in and holds Stephanie's face above water. But it's only a temporary solution. The car's still sinking and they simply aren't strong enough. Thankfully, that's when their manpower gets an assist from horsepower. Good Samaritan Phil Miller runs a chain from his truck to the car's bumper and then hits the gas. With his tires spinning on the slushy ground, he manages enough traction to pull the wreck to shallower water. But even with the risk of drowning gone, Stephanie's survival is in doubt. Her core temperature has fallen to dangerous levels, and if it drops too low, resuscitation may not be possible. Moments later, rescuers are on the scene. Armed with the right gear, they move in. But still, some civilian rescuers don't want to leave Stephanie's side. Dressed in cold weather gear, the fire department pulls Stephanie's limp body from the car. She's clinging to life, but there's no way she could have held on without help.
There's not a question in my mind, not only that it took all 9 of them, if just 1 or 2 stopped, I don't think they would have done anything. Please come in.
Weeks later, Stephanie is on her feet again, attending an emotional ceremony to honor the strangers who saved her.
We are here to honor these brave rescuers. Never have I, or I believe anybody, seen such brave individuals in such numbers jump into icy water without really thinking about what they did. We all owe you a great big thank you.
I would not consider myself a hero as much as an average person just happened to be on hand, was lucky enough to be able to help.
But Stephanie feels like the lucky one and is moved by what the rescuers did for her.
I'm just amazed that they stopped, because sometimes people don't stop when they see the people. I'm just grateful that they did.
She's going to recover, and it makes it all worthwhile, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
It's the late shift at a convenience store in Las Cruces, New Mexico. George Montoya, single father of 2, has just put in a full day at community college. He then went home, tucked his children in for the night, and came to work, so that he'll have food to put on the table in the morning.
The kids didn't like me working at night at the store as it is, right? But you know, you gotta eat.
He has no idea that the next 2 people through the door will have him fighting for his life.
It was inevitable once I opened the door. They went in with a plan, and I just got caught up in it, and it could have been anybody.
The young men are gang members on the prowl for a quick score, and they don't care who gets hurt. At first, they hide their sinister intentions with some friendly small talk.
They were both wearing gloves, and they had their hoods on. And I asked them if it was that cold outside, and they said, yeah.
It's a dirty game of winning George's confidence, making him feel comfortable before they turn his world upside down. As one hood keeps George's attention, pretending to make a purchase, the other sneaks to the end of the counter. The sound of the cash drawer opening is his cue. Parts of this attack are so violent they can't be shown on television, but every second of it is seared into George's memory.
When I saw the guy coming around the corner into the register area, I knew I was in trouble because I saw the knife in his hand. I was just totally shocked that here he comes, you know. And I turned and just started kicking.
Each armed with 8 inches of glistening steel, the robbers attack without conscience. They have their score in sight and are willing to kill George to keep him from interfering. But they've made a mistake. The attack drove George backwards in self-defense. His body knocked the cash drawer shut. It's a moment that may have saved George's life, because when the thieves realize the money is locked away, the attack stops. They need George in one piece if they're going to get that register open. Wounded and in shock, George tries to focus on the keypad, knowing compliance is the only chance he has to see his kids again.
Well, they asked me if I was a badass, and if I didn't stop fighting, that they were going to kill me.
Finally, the drawer slides open. George tries to make peace as the robbers take the loot.
Take it, bro. You got time on?
His words are just enough. The crooks empty the drawer, and then, as quickly as they attacked, they're gone. Only now does George realize the full extent of his injuries.
I didn't feel anything until after they left, and I looked down, and the whole floor was covered with blood.
He was stabbed 7 times, including one gash in the head that required 15 stitches. And this attack sends him to the hospital for 10 days. But George's problems were just beginning, and no doctor would be able to solve them.
About 4 days after the fact, once everything is over with, then I started feeling the pain and the anxiety of what had happened, you know. My youngest one was just shocked at how quick he could have lost his dad.
But even as his kids were showing him sympathy, his school was not.
I was dropped from the registry. I missed 10 days, and there was no way I could catch up.
The good news is, the thugs who stabbed George were later caught. The bad news, the other members of their gang might seek revenge against him. This is why he keeps his face hidden by sunglasses during interviews. Adding insult to injury, in the wake of the attack, the store refused to pay George for the time off he spent in the hospital. It was like getting stabbed one final time, right in the back. But George is undeterred. He's since taken a second job at another convenience store to keep supporting his family. He may be doubling his risk, but he believes that he has more going for him than against him.
God took over, man. I'm not kidding. It was my higher power. I mean, God helped me through the whole thing, and that was all there was to it.
A Michigan News cameraman is about to capture more than today's top story. The Clinton River is swollen and rushing from a recent rainstorm. Hours ago, a female kayaker died when the raging current carried her under this logjam. The woman's death is a huge local news story, and cameraman Dave Meinhardt is there rolling tape.
My assignment was to come out here and do a story about the tragedy that had happened earlier in the day.
He doesn't like covering tragic stories, but Dave's a pro. He begins by shooting aftermath of the accident. But today, police tell him to go away. After shooting news for 23 years, Dave knows you don't go back to the station empty-handed. He approaches the park ranger for a quick interview and then follows him to the accident site.
This way it's swirling? Yeah. I was actually standing at the log jam where the girl had drowned. And all of a sudden the ranger said, "Look, here's some kayaks coming. You're going to get a good shot." So I stood there and I was shooting them coming up stream down towards me.
Dave thinks he's simply going to get some shots of kayakers passing the deadly logjam. Instead, he catches deadly deja vu. Years of professional experience tells him to keep rolling tape. But there's no way this father of 3 will stand by and watch someone's daughter drown.
When I heard them screaming, I just knew I had to put the camera down and go to their rescue.
Dave dumps the camera on its side, making it tough to see the rescue. But the frightening sounds say it all. The girl's paddle has her pinned against the logjam, and her kayak is taking in water. Dave uses every ounce of strength he has to shove the paddle aside and yank the girl out from under the logjam. The camera misses the rescue, but the girl is freed. As she floats safely downriver, history repeats itself yet again. A second kayaker in a yellow life vest who stopped to help is now trapped too. Dave asks the ranger to give him a hand, but his request falls on deaf ears.
The ranger wouldn't even step out on the logjam. He just stood there on the shore.
There's no time to waste. Dave tries going in alone, but thankfully a bystander jumps to his aid and grabs the girl's hand. Between the two of them, the sopping girl is pulled safely to shore.
Okay?
Oh, I'm fine, yeah.
Okay, but hold that phone in, please.
Dave quickly resumes his role as newsman and shoots a dramatic on-the-spot interview with the shaken girl.
Now, right where you were, a lady just was pulled out and she didn't make it. Right under those logs.
Really?
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think it's
Did they tell you anything like that when you ran into your canoe?
No. They told us that someone died yesterday, actually.
And another one just died here today, within hours.
The girl is frightened by what she hears and yells to her friends she's done with kayaking. Her buddies don't seem to realize that she would have died without Dave's help.
I'll walk. I'm good. Seriously, honey.
Why?
Because the lady just died here 2 hours ago right there, and I'm just all freaked out.
What happened?
A lady died right there? Just died right there, right where you were. She just died 2 hours ago, and I can't do it.
Their kayaking adventure is over. They'll walk back to their van.
I'm walking.
Dave walks away too, a humble hero armed with an amazing story for the evening news.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, fellas.
Yeah. There's so many people that I've covered in my job, you know, the firefighters and the police that, you know, they're heroes every day. You know, I just was lucky enough to be able to help somebody once in my life, you know, and that's great.
In the skies over Seoul, Korea, a chopper crew is carrying several tons of national pride. They're attempting to place a massive sculpture atop this bridge, built to commemorate the 1988 Summer Olympics. South Korea's finest moment on the world stage. It's a symbolic flame, one the government hopes will be eternal. The Army enlists 3 of their top pilots to put the flame in place. But because of the excessive weight, anything but ideal conditions can send things spinning out of control. The chopper splits in two, plummeting to the concrete bridge like a Hollywood stunt. Half the craft erupts into flames. The rest sinks to the bottom of the Han River. Fortunately, bridge and river traffic were shut down. No bystanders are injured, but the entire chopper crew is lost. Bruce Bergquist, a helicopter expert and instructor, dissects the anatomy of this crash.
At this point, everything looks normal. He's got a good steady platform, and he has a nice gentle set down. A little bit of movement here could be from the wind.
Everything appears to be normal, but somehow the chopper creates a condition where the rotor blades have no air to push down on, and it sinks.
Right now, as he comes down, he appears to be settling with power. He settled in his own downwash and was unable to stop his descent rate.
The pilot now has a split second to decide what to do.
As a pilot, when catastrophic failures of an engine or tail rotor or anything, you only have a split second to make that emergency decision. He should have cut the cable, dropped the load, and continue to fly forward and fly out of the downwash. But obviously he didn't do that.
But why didn't he just drop the load and fly out as he was trained to do? It could have been that he just didn't react in time. But perhaps with the pride of a nation riding on his shoulders, the pilot couldn't bear to lose the Olympic flame just to save himself. The damaged sculpture stands to this day, commemorating the Olympics and the 3 brave men who gave their lives to honor their country. Criminals love breaking the law, or at least what breaking the law brings them. But just because they love it doesn't mean they're good at it. Loving television is no crime, but stealing them right off the loading dock is. And that's what these 2 guys are attempting to do. They figured it was no big deal since they did the exact same thing in the exact same store 2 weeks ago. They shouldn't have pushed their luck. They never even noticed the newly installed security cameras capturing their every move. Moments later, when the alarm sounds, they run away empty-handed. But within hours, these TV-loving thieves are TV stars. The tape was broadcast on a Crime Stoppers program, and the next day, tipsters identify the culprits. Now one's watching TV from his jail cell, and the other is on the run. This stylish robber loves jewelry. He just hates paying for it. So he poses as a legitimate buyer and uses a very persuasive tool to help himself. Watch as he pulls the pistol. But just as he fires, the fast-acting jeweler knocks it away. The culprit tries again. This time, the gun jams and he wisely leaves. But he's not that wise. 9 days later, he robs a pawn shop, taking 4 guns and, you guessed it, more jewelry. This tape helped convict the man, and now, the only jewelry he's wearing are prison chains. In Iowa, the young man behind the wheel of this truck has an infatuation that's driven him to criminal behavior. He loves booze. Unfortunately, he also drives while under the influence. Pulled over for a minor traffic violation, he drunkenly decides the best way to avoid trouble is to lead the cops on a high-speed chase over these icy rural roads. Then the pursuit takes a strange turn. He tries to get back on the road and pass the cruiser, but when he does, their bumpers lock. He tries desperately to evade the police, but everywhere he turns, they're right on his bumper, literally. He drags the officers for over half a mile before a bump separates them. Soon after, he finally sobers up enough to realize he's not going to outrun them. So he signals he's had enough. It wasn't his plan to end it like this, but then again, his judgment was alcohol impaired. Now he'll pay a hefty fine, $1,100 to fix the police car, and spend 30 days in jail. An expensive bill for a night of drinking.
Been drinking that, BJ? Yes, I have, sir.
3 crimes, 3 criminal klutzes, who prove that sometimes following your passions will lead you right to jail.